has been yet another train derailment in Ohio, the second in just a month. That Norfolk Southern freight train derailed on Saturday. This time it was near Springfield, with 28 of the train's 212 cars leaving the track. This is following last month's derailment in East Palestine. That one resulted in a controlled release of toxic chemicals and also the temporary evacuation of thousands of people. Now, officials say Saturday's train in Springfield was not carrying toxic materials.
Joining us now is the senior senator from Ohio, Sherrod Brown. Senator, thanks for taking the time. Let's jump right into this because we have a lot to talk to you about. Begin by telling us the latest that you can share with us about the second Norfolk Southern derailment, which is near Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah, it's the fourth derailment in 5 months. Steubenville, Sandusky, the most disastrous East Palestine and Eastern Ohio, and now Springfield. And I have some questions still about Springfield, that there was some residue in the cars. I want to make sure that that's not a problem for local residents. But I mean, start with this. This is a company immensely profitable. They've done billions of dollars in stock buybacks. They've, in the last couple of years alone, in the last 10 years, they've laid off a third of their workforce. They've compromised on safety. The workers don't have enough time to do the thorough inspections they should do. So companies like this do the kind of damage they did four derailments in 5 months in my state. In what it's done to East Palestine, it's going to take tens of millions of dollars to fix what they did in East Palestine, and people there are still suffering, coming back into their homes, testing their water, testing the soil, testing the air, the damage to farmers and local businesses. So they still have a lot to answer for.
And while this new one is much different than what happened in East Palestine, you were just talking about that, no hazardous chemicals were leaked. You met with residents of East Palestine last week. What stood out to you from that discussion? Are you satisfied with the cleanup efforts that are going on there?
No, I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied that this company is going to change its behavior. I'm not satisfied that they have really listened to local residents whose lives are upended. They just want to get their lives back to normal. The Norfolk Southern says they're going to pay for everything. They said they're going to pay for hotel stays and testing and damages. But this one of the fears I have is, what do these chemicals mean for somebody 2 years, 5 years down the road? And I compare that to what Congress did on the PACT Act for veterans, for the hundreds of thousands of veterans who were exposed to these football field-sized burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan and breathed all this stuff. And we passed a law, the PACT Act, that simply says if you have one of 23 illnesses that we've identified in that law, you get immediate care at the VA without having to get a lawyer and suing and all that. I don't know if that's what we're going to need to do in East Palestine. If we write a law like that, we're going to hold Norfolk Southern accountable for the damage they did.
And Senator, we're getting word today that Norfolk Southern announced it today, that all of its trains over 10,000 feet will now use distributed power units, which will remotely controlled and help with acceleration and braking. That's what they have done. You have recently introduced your own suggested changes to this bipartisan Railway Safety Act of 2023. So I'm curious, what would that legislation do? And do you think it would have prevented what happened in East Palestine?
Well, whether it would, I don't know if it would have prevented it. Certainly would have mitigated the damage. It wouldn't have been nearly this damaging to the local community. Think about a couple things. 150 cars in East Palestine, many of them jumped the tracks. In Springfield, as you just reported, more than 200 cars. One of the things our bill does is require a two-person crew. Norfolk Southern wanted to have a one-person crew on these trains. It also mandates when these trains come into the state, they've got to notify the state authorities if they're carrying hazardous materials, so the state can then inform local firefighters to be ready in case something happens. It improves the safety of wheel bearings, which has been the cause of more of these accidents than anything else. It ups the fines. The average fine that Norfolk Southern's paid in the last few years is $10,000 for safety violations. That's pennies on the dollar of a company that gives $6-7 billion in stock buybacks. So we will do a number of those things in this bill. Senator Vance, the Republican sponsor, and I, and then Senator Casey in Pennsylvania. We have 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. As soon as I return this week, I go back to Washington later this afternoon. We're gonna work to get this bill through the Senate.
Yeah, still a lot of stress and anxiety, understandably, in that community. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.